Welcome to Citizens Perspective. Hope you're having a good day. Today we're going to be talking about the Jefferson County Commission meeting of June 23rd. We're going to be breaking it down for you. We're going to be breaking it down real fresh, real smooth. My cat Sherman would like to interject. But yeah, we're going to be breaking down the Jefferson County Commission meeting of June 23rd. I've been listening along to it while I've been ready for the broadcast, but I understand if you have trouble following along with those commission meetings. Now, for those that don't know, commission meetings are actually live streamed. Now, what I'm going to do to show you that is I am going to show you a QR code at the top right of your screen, or it would be it'd be at either the top right or the top left of your screen. That's going to show you a route to city government live streams for the city of Homewood. These are going to be county commission meetings, anything you need to see. But yeah, stick around for a little while. Jacob is taking some time to get ready. But yeah, stick around for just a few more minutes. Thank you for your patience. Thanks for your patience. So Jacob's taking a little bit longer than I expected. It's just on me. Just I just started the stream a little earlier than I should have. But in the meantime, what we're gonna do, but in the meantime, what we're gonna do is you and I are gonna watch this together because I have been listening along to this. I have been listening along to the recent county commission broadcast, but I have not been able to finish it. So you and I are going to be able to watch where I left off. You and I are going to be able to take a listen to where I left off. Now, the first part that they're talking about here is AI data centers. How much are they going to consume? One momento. Oh, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Okay. Jacob is actually ready. So one thing that they discussed was AI data centers or data centers in general. Now data centers in general, you've heard them mostly for AI, I'm sure, but what if I told you that they're not just for AI? What if I told you that data centers were for digital infrastructure in general, things like Netflix, things like listening to Critical Dispatch 6, your favorite podcast, and more. All of these things, all of these things, data centers can help with. And if and in this meeting, one of the first things that they discussed was actually that. It was actually the nature of data centers. What's a data center? Why a data center? Who a data center? Who are we? What are we? What's happening? What mission report December 16th, 1994? What's happening? Now, if you'll join us here in just a moment, Jacob and I, we're going to take a listen to a county commission meeting. Stick around. I apologize. I thought I was going to be able to get the show going, but the second I started, Jacob texted me saying he was ready. So, stay tuned. I lied. I'm back. Anyway, so like I said, one thing I'm sure you've heard about is data centers. Data centers. What's a data center? Who's a data center? Why is a data center? Now, data center, I've looked it up to verify. I've looked it up to fact check what they've said for you, and they sound generally correct. These were things that I didn't know myself, which I know I should feel ashamed. I'm a computer science graduate, and I should know every single thing, every conceivable thing about technology these days. And I feel ashamed. I feel ashamed that I didn't. I don't know why that was up there. That's an old thing. I feel ashamed that I didn't. So data centers, according to a totally non-biased source, IBM, data centers are basically for helping with digital infrastructure. A data center is a physical room, building, or facility that houses IT infrastructure for building, running, and delivering applications and services. So, Netflix, like I said, watching Critical Dispatch 6, your new favorite podcast, things like that. Data centers now, they started out as privately owned, tightly controlled facilities housing things like I just mentioned that. Now, recently they've evolved into bigger facilities owned by cloud service providers. Google Docs is a cloud service provider. Google Drive, what else is a cloud service provider? If you've ever backed up your phone, iCloud is as it implies. If you've ever played on cloud gaming, that's as it implies. It's the be, the I have the words. I know the best words, but no, I don't. It's basically a the best way I can describe clouds the best way I can describe cloud services is like sending a balloon up into a cloud. Like it it's a remote it's a remote storage place that you can it's a remote storage, essentially remote storage. That's actually the best way. Now over the years, now data centers dated back to the 1940s, and over the and at around that time data centers would have been computers in general would have been freaking huge. Computers would have been the size of entire rooms at that time. And as we all know, computers became more and more efficient over time. Microcomputers came on the scene in the 90s. These microcomputers that began filling old mainframe computer rooms became known as servers, and the rooms became known as data centers. So, in other words, data centers are just houses of servers. Now, what is the issue with data centers today? Data centers today, data centers today consume. Now, I am going to give you a text source to have you read along to while I describe it. But data centers today are water guzzlers. They are water and power guzzlers. As you could imagine, massive buildings full of servers and digital infrastructure, surprise, surprise, are power guzzlers. I know, right? What a shocker. What a friggin' shocker. Now, now that you have basic context, I can provide more resources in the description of this broadcast as we go. But now that you have basic context, let's hear what the Jefferson County Commission had to say, or this meeting in particular had to say regarding data centers. Now, it was generally a planning thing from what I saw, but let's have you listen for yourself.
We also have our budget management agenda, individual staff development, and multiple staff development.
Do I have a motion?
Move the items.
A motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Our counterparts with Rosentrans, ESD, other departments in the county are with data centers and other potentially heavy industrial, energy intensive land uses. So real quick, just to define what a data center is, essentially it is a land use that manufactures data. They are instrumental to the global economy, everything from your streaming service, banking, AI, ChatGPT, all these things run off of data centers. They're basically large warehouses full of servers, and they're critical for our digital infrastructure. So there are various types of data centers. They range from extremely small, they could be as small as this corner of this room in terms of just being one server in a closet, to these mega hyperscale buildings. Some cities, they've got high rises that are just dedicated to data centers, even in downtown areas. So basically they get distinguished by the number of users, the arrangement within the facility in terms of how they're co-located or not. And typically the industry standard is to separate them further based off of the power usage, number of servers, and square footage. So really in the county, what we're wanting to look at in terms of data.
And one thing I wanted to chime in to say that even medium-sized data centers, according to this meeting, are quite power guzzlers. Usually a medium data center is going to be under 1 to 2 megawatts, which megawatts, you hear that word and you're like, what is a megawatt, Adam? What is a megawatt? Now, the problem with that is that 1 megawatt, according to Sustainable Power News, 1 megawatt can power 330 homes for an hour. And yeah, that is, given medium-sized data centers, that kind of sounds quite low, doesn't it? But given the bigger ones, them things is power guzzlers. Them things is sweet baby Jesus. Look at that. 50 to 100 plus megawatts. Them things is, sorry, I was responding to a text from Jacob. Them things is quite the power consumers. They got the power. I had a statistic in front of me that I have immediately lost. I'm gonna let this run while I go find that. Oh, here it is. 1 megawatt of energy, I read it right. 1 megawatt of energy can power 330 homes for a full hour. Now, hyperscale data centers, 50 to 100 megawatts. Remember that. Sorry, I was looking for a statistic that I immediately lost and then had to find again. Just to be honest with you. All right, let's keep listening.
These mega hyperscale buildings, some cities they've got high rises that are just dedicated to data centers, even in downtown areas. So basically, they get distinguished by the number of users, the arrangement within the facility in terms of how they're co-located or not, and typically the industry standard is to separate them further based off of the power usage, number of servers, and square footage. So really in the county, what we're wanting to look at in terms of data center placement and really any type of industrial use that has a high energy draw, potential for emissions or other externalities, is to make sure that they're done in the right context within the county. The county is extremely diverse in terms of the land use that we have. It ranges from fairly urbanized areas to extremely rural areas. And so it's really hard to just pigeonhole and say this is exactly the way every data center needs to come and go, depending on where they're being site selected at. So what we were looking at is really a countywide framework that would address everything from when we have tighter controls based off of what the data center or other industrial use is adjacent to, versus where we feel like they could just more or less be allowed by right, depending on the size, the energy draw. If they're coming, for instance, on a site that's a former mining site, a brownfield, we want to encourage adaptive reuse in those areas. And so further consideration within that framework that we're looking at is, do we want to cluster them together? Do we want these things more scattershot around the county? Do we want to try and encourage them to go more vertical versus sprawling out on a larger site? And then mapping out the grid capacity. One of the things that we hear commonly from data centers, right or wrong, and I think it depends on the data center, is their water usage, their electric.
One thing that I find kind of funny is the right or wrong mentality. One thing we hear about data centers is right or wrong is the fact that they consume water. Thanks for joining us, Jacob. Can you talk to me real quick? Run a sound check.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna pull a Kanye and stop you right there, even though I wasn't here for the beginning of the conversation, so I have even less of a right to interrupt you than Kanye did Taylor Swift. But anyway, I think that the data center, I think that there's enough of a concern about data centers to where my stance is we just should have a general pause on at least large AI data centers. Maybe you disagree, and I welcome your disagreement because that makes for a more interesting show and because it does deserve to be talked about. But what are your thoughts on that?
No, I fully agree with you because at this stage, I feel like we're seeing history repeat itself with computers in general. Because at this stage, in early computers' lives, they took up entire rooms. And the fact that we are deploying things that take up even more than entire rooms nationwide shows that we're doing this way too early. Now, don't get me wrong. As I graduated college for computer science, so I'm all for the tool, I'm not for the wielders. I'm all for the tool of AI, I'm just not for the people wielding it. Now,
So let me play Neville's advocate here. Why should we be for the tool when it's going to displace people's jobs and it's based off of taking from existing intellectual property?
that's the thing. That's the thing. That's not where I'm for the tool. That's the thing. That's not where I'm for the tool. Things like AI art, things like AI generated music or AI generated media, that's not where I'm for the tool. And as far as I'm concerned, Ultron was right with those. Now, for those that don't know, Ultron was a rogue AI that Iron Man created that tried to destroy the world. He was correct in that situation. I am not for the way the tool is being wielded. I'm for the one of the ways that I always feel AI should be applied is, and it's just an off the top of my head example, things for like night assisting night shift workers at a hospital, things like assisting night shift medical staff with monitoring at a hospital. That
Hmm.
way they have faster response times in the event of an emergency because they have constant overwatch. Things that can be objectively useful. Now,
Right. Although I think I hate to keep pushing you further and further into a corner on this, but like I'm one of the people who does not have a tech degree like you, right? And I hear AI assisting nurses with medical things. I'm like, even that sounds a bit scary, you know? Like these things are not human, and they can make mistakes, right? If they're there to be the guardians and humans aren't necessarily there to correct them, right? This seems like one of the worst possible scenarios is medical situations. You know what I mean?
yeah, and that plays into an earlier point that I had that this technology is too young. This technology
Yeah,
is far too young. It is far too early for us to be seeing it. It's just
right.
something that I feel like with on the high end, maybe another decade or two, we could maybe start to see the
Yeah, just like the AI um, data center systems, there needs to be some cooling here on the excitement about AI. There needs to be some cold water.
the analogy, the image that I always use to capture it ties back into Iron Man. The image that I always use of my ideal AI is the relationship between Iron Man and his AI Jarvis. Now, for those that don't know, Iron Man usually has a AI co-pilot watching his back. Jarvis can actually completely take over the suit in the event of like life-threatening emergencies, but otherwise he can help with things like say Iron Man is being shot at and having to defend himself against something. Jarvis can say, "See something can detect life signs in a nearby building and be like, hey, go get these guys out. These guys are in trouble." These
Yeah,
things,
and of course, Iron Man like literally is the military industrial complex, especially the movie. Obviously, you would know more about the comics, but the late 2000s movie, right, is very much a statement about the military industrial complex, which would speak to the current conflict between AI companies like Anthropic, which ironically, right, they got that name because they chose that name obviously because of anthropos, the Greek word for Greek root word for human, like anthropomorphic, but it's like there's a conflict between companies like that and people who experts on AI and the actual military who wants to use it for death.
Yeah, that's another thing where in my opinion, when it comes to military applications of AI, in my utopia, AI and the military don't mix at all.
Yeah.
Because that is dishonorable. That is just too cold. That apparently that I might be horribly wrong, but apparently AI was partially to blame for a attack that killed. It might have been like an AI prediction, but the U.S. took the U.S. took the blame for a missile that hit a school. Let me say that again: a fucking school in Iran that killed 160 children.
Yep.
And I heard a let me fact. I'll have to fact check this, but I heard a possibility that it was an AI that predicted it.
Yeah,
Uh,
it could be, but keep in mind the U.S. and Israel have been knowingly killing civilians for like in the Middle East for like decades now. You know, even like that's one of the biggest criticisms on the left of Obama is that like the drone policy was just savage. Like there were things about it that were indefensible, even though Obama didn't have his hand on every little thing. But like the government under Obama, right? And then Trump made it worse. Biden ramped it down a little bit, but under Obama and late Bush, it was like they had these entire categories of just like people who like if they were anywhere near what they considered a terror hotspot, they could just get murked by a drone. You know, and like 90% of the people who are killed by drones in like Afghanistan or Pakistan were civilians. Like we knew that, and we did it anyway. You
yeah,
know,
that
so
is
I wouldn't blame it entirely on modern AI. It's inexcusable either way, but that's what we do.
yeah
That's what the U.S. and Israel does now.
yeah that honestly is a damn shame. By the way, for anyone that wants to see this for themselves, I'm about to play where I left off of the commission meeting at
Yeah.
1.5 speed. If anyone wants to see this for themselves, at the top right of your screen, there's a QR code to Homewood City Government live streams. Now,
Well,
I know this,
go ahead.
I know this is all important data. I know this is all important information to hear, but Jacob
Wait,
and I
but
both
Adam, it's the county commission, isn't it?
yeah, Jacob and I both have ADD, and
Oh, but
I
so you said Homewood government. It would be the county government. It would be Jefferson
oh
County.
yeah. Let me revise that. I will revise that shortly. Homewood is in Jefferson County, but in the
Right.
meantime, just
Yeah,
to fill.
we are proudly all in. Okay, no, I'm running in partly in Shelby County for Congress. I can't make that brag joke anymore that we're like all in Jefferson County.
fu- Funny you should say that. I just put up a QR code to your website to fill the void. Um, but yeah, in the meantime, I've been listening to this all morning. But to be honest with you, I have only been able to reach the halfway point because I my focus has been on setting this up, and like the reason I'm about to
Okay.
play it at
Well, I
1.5
mean, but
speed.
that gets to the question I wanted to ask you before you do that. What, if anything, have you learned about the county commission or county government from this?
So one thing that I saw was the fact that the one thing that I've learned is the mechanics, the things that they oversee. Like the beginning of this meeting had them negotiate things like contracts. I think one of the items in the agenda was negotiating pay for a new position. I've forgotten what it was, but it was generally starting with budget allocations, and it seems like a generally the commission meeting seems like a overview of current of the status of things in the county and current propositions for
Yep.
things moving forward. And data centers are actually one of the big things that this one started with. The fact that it was asking things like, how much is too much space for a data center? How much is too much power consumption for a data center? It's
Right.
it's questioning the limits of a data center, in other words.
Very good.
I guess I've learned a little more than I thought. Let's see with this. Let's see if they have anything more important to say on data centers themselves. Jacob and I both have ADHD, so I'm just playing it at 1.5 speed to help us both.
Electrical usage, potential for emissions and things like that. So really, we want to take a more technical approach and say, okay, where can the grid sustain something like an enterprise or a hyperscale data center? And based off that, also in addition to that, where are we planning for other growth?
All right, pause it.
We want to have one large.
What I'm going to predict, or what I'm looking for, is particularly the Republican commissioners to start talking about why the data centers are a bad idea because of how much tax money they would cost us. Because that's been the main argument from the Republican county commission president, is that some of these data centers are bad for us because we have to give them all these tax abatements. It's like a fiscal conservative argument.
That's something I definitely agree with as a dirty socialist. If you said it was like a tax abatement. You said,
Yeah, because these AI data centers by state law, and what they ask for when they come into our communities is tax subsidies in the form of reduced sales and property taxes.
at this
And
point,
guess how many, under state law, guess how many jobs they have to create to get both the sales and property tax abatements at the same time.
how much is it?
They only have to create 20 jobs, and they can get these tax abatements for up to 20 or 30 years.
20 jobs for that.
Yep.
It does not take a 20-man team to run that. At the minimum, if that's a warehouse of servers, at the minimum.
Well, my point is that's not a lot of jobs, right? Maybe that's all it takes. Maybe it takes less, but that's not a lot of jobs. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that is abysmal. That is, and another thing, you can look this up. You guys can look this up on your own time. Another thing, it's 20 jobs for more water consumption than it's worth, more noise.
Maybe it'll be worth it. Maybe it'll be worth it more if it was like 20 jobs where all of them get a stake in the company, or where the city gets a stake in the company, or the county does. You know what I'm saying? Because then you're talking about real real equity flowing back into the community and the workers. When Dakari was still running, he suggested that they should be required to hire union people. I wouldn't mind that, although again, I'm just in favor of a straight moratorium, a straight pause. And in order to give lip service at least to state and local rights, I would have some caveats in it, right? Like it wouldn't just be blanket like all AI data centers. What I would propose, if I were writing the bill myself, would be to say, you can't build the data center if it's near a state line, or like or a like federally funded institution, like a housing project, or if it's near a tribe that objects to it, right? Otherwise, you get to you get to work it out with your local people. But I am in favor of like state and national, like just temporary pauses. So like in the words of Donald Trump, we can figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, like another thing that he said, because they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah. Anyway, we can play the county commissioners.
Project come in and tap out a grid where we are planning for future development or other industrial projects. So along those same lines, data centers can have economic development benefits to the county depending on the scale, but then there's also some other considerations we can look at. It's an extremely large capital investment, particularly for enterprise and hyperscale data centers. They can increase our tax base, obviously. We also have potential for more software engineering type jobs within that industry cluster. One thing we want to be cognizant of, I think, now with data centers and in accordance with our comp plan, is we have a finite available land inventory where industrial development can go. And that gets less and less every year. So we want to make sure that we're putting these data centers in areas where we feel like they're the highest and best use. Data centers do not employ per square foot a lot of individuals. It's very low employment density, but that also has a positive benefit because it is less traffic. So it can be less impactful than say something like a automobile manufacturing facilities. But the trade-off for that is that there's not really a lot of suppliers for data centers. They're manufacturing data. It's not like an automobile facility where they're requiring someone to come in and also supply tires, computer chips, and things like that. So really, the economic side of data centers is more of a macro level benefit to a regional and national. And so one of the things we're trying to look at in this framework for the county are the environmental considerations of that. So looking at things such as energy usage, potential for noise and light around the site, and where that could go.
Another thing, they don't capture this well, but when they say noise, I've seen videos of AI data centers or data centers in general. Just these data centers running, just these buildings existing, they sound like jets taking off just 24/7. I'm just like, this thing. Now, if this thing was built if these things were built like 20 miles away from civilization, then I'd be willing to waive that. But
It's funny you should say that because that's what I've thought about. That's the exact number of miles I've thought about putting in if I crafted the legislation, whereas like you have to be within 20 miles of any of these like federally funded institutions or state lines or tribal lines.
Yeah, because of that, I can show us a video another time, but yeah, these things are loud. These things are just running extremely loud. And another thing it says is water and electricity usage are high. They mentioned earlier that like 50 like hyper like huge level data centers like this one or bigger would be using upwards of 150 to 100 megawatts. I think it was a day. To give you an idea, 1 megawatt alone is enough to power about 330 houses for a full hour, which that is not okay. That is not okay that we have to give that to tech billionaires. Honestly. Like, why? ¿Por qué? Jacob, did you catch all of that? Because your camera cut out for a second.
I caught all that. I just had a link I wanted you to react to.
Oh,
because it's funny.
Oh, okay. As soon as I get that link, I'll pull it up on another tab, and
Yeah,
we
it's
can take
on.
a look at it.
It's in the chat.
Oh, I forgot we had a private chat. Open link in new tab. I'm gonna keep this running while I take a look at that,
Adjacent property
and
owner.
I'll show it to you I'll show it to you
There's
guys
also
if
some
it
research
ends
that
up
says that data
depending
centers
on
can increase
relevancy.
the temperature around adjacent properties, and that really is what we're trying to look at. Proper controls for landscaping to make sure that we don't have that heat island effect. Lots of impervious surface, and then also to make sure that we have every consideration in terms of landfills. We want to reduce e-waste to make sure that these batteries that they use aren't just sent to the landfill that could potentially contaminate the soil or groundwater later. And that being said, I want to make sure that we're very clear with policy direction that we're going with this, because we have land uses in the county now, and that would also be allowable that actually have a higher utility draw and can have potentially higher emissions and other impacts. And so what we're looking at is something, a type of policy within our zoning ordinance, and that would be a framework countywide that would address heavier industrial use and really apply these controls that would for these potential impacts countywide for all these type of heavy industrial uses, not just data centers. Just singling out data centers, we run the risk of being arbitrary and capricious. And then also, we're really missing the intent of the ordinance if that's what we go for. because we're not hitting on these externalities that could be some of these other land uses. So as I stated earlier, we're looking at a holistic approach to this. Heather did a great job of coming up with a draft document that had very clear, actionable, quantifiable measures that we're looking at in terms of noise, ambient level of increase, utility grid capacity, when those particular types of scenarios could trigger further controls, further consideration, further studies. And so really, the complaints you're hearing about data centers, right or wrong, they're very wide and diverse. And so what we need is a holistic approach to that, one that can answer the right questions so that you all can make an informed decision when you have a potential developer coming in. We can make an informed recommendation to you all, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission. So the regulatory framework for this, de facto, right now, we do not have a pathway for data centers in our existing zoning. So we are working on updating that. However, in doing a little bit more research, and last week, we've come to the realization that we need to update the comprehensive plan as well as the land use map to accommodate that. We updated the plan last year. These types of controls that we're trying to look at for data centers and other heavy industrial uses, as well as just data centers in general, are not specifically spelled out in the comp plan. So that could potentially be challenged. And one of the things we want to do with
So it says presently data centers are not an allowable use, at least as far as large scale AI data centers are concerned. Let's keep it that way. As a Jefferson County resident and a federal candidate, let's keep it that way. For now.
like the big like for the big dogs, like for OpenAI or Meta, for like the big dogs, they gotta stay far away. Like,
well, the AI that I mess around with, the most, Venice AI, claims to not really use data centers. What do you think of that claim?
that is, I'd have to see Venice AI for myself, but that is honestly impressive if that claim is true, because it is it like a chatbot type thing? Is it like what's that?
Yeah, it's like a chatbot type thing.
Yeah,
So you message it.
I'm honestly impressed by that. If that is true, then that's the type of developers that we need, because they've been able to make more work with less. Like that.
Right.
That's the type of developers you want. The ones
Right,
that
and they're not. They also claim to not be sycophantic, and in my experience, there is a lot of ways to get it to push back against you.
Yeah, like ChatGPT will do that a lot. Like ChatGPT will just treat you as its god because it wants to please you.
Right.
Now that sounds kinky, kinda, but you get the point. It wants to please its overlord. But yeah, honestly, I'd be impressed by that. If Venice AI was able to make that much more work with less. But yeah, let's see. Let's let these guys talk through this a little bit more, and then if need be, we could break it down into caveman speak based off of what we just heard.
Oh, did you open the link yet?
Oh yeah, I did. I will. I can show it to them real quick. I'm gonna have to stop the share real quick.
By the way, because I don't think I've said it on here, I'm the first openly autistic candidate for major office in Alabama history.
Represent, Gigabased. I will never hydrate. Let me run that one more time because I think I wasn't sharing it.
I'm asking the group chat of like 12 autistic people that I keep in my back pocket. We're not the same. And they use a lot less water, by the way, than those data centers do. They need to actually be using more water, please. You're dehydrated. Drink.
Never. I will never. Anyway, let's get back to now. I'm showing what we're seeing in the county commission meeting. I'm showing what we're seeing on a separate monitor. So if you see me looking to the side, that's what I'm watching. Anyway, where were we?
Go back out to the communities. Not only is that a requirement, but it's a good practice so that we can get those communities feedback regionally in terms of where they feel like data centers are appropriate, or not appropriate, where they feel like we need additional controls, what those controls look like. And in partnership with that, we also want to meet with each of the county commissioners to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page, speaking from the same sheet of music in terms of the type of controls we want to implement and the guardrails we want to sit around data centers and other heavy industrial uses.
So I guess when you put a link on the screen, I can't see it directly, or because I was trying to see what it looked like on YouTube. I could see you playing the video, but I couldn't see it when I was here in the StreamYard. Does that follow?
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, that is actually totally valid.
Adam?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? I am speaking. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Can you hear me? La 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 la. Da, 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 da. I do apologize. We will be right back. We got some technical difficulties. We gonna be right back. Stick around. Jacob, talk to me real quick.
205.
Yes, sir. Anyway, I just put up some tunes for him while we were resolving technical difficulties. Ooh, that fade out was snazzy. Anyway, can you hear me okay? Hello? Can you hear me okay?
All right, so Adam, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is that a yes or a no?
Yeah, yes, stand by. Just checking stuff, making sure. Hello, hello. Mic check. Ha ha ha. I'll be the anti-rock idiot stuffer. Mic check. Ha ha ha. Mic check. Mic check. Check the mic. Check the mic. Mic check. Anyway, we do apologize for the technical difficulties, but they have caused us to run over time a little bit. So in the event, what we might have to do is we might have to just continue the episode another time. We do apologize for the inconvenience. You can blame it on me, as everyone else always does. Yeah. Anyway, in the who's yeah, due to technical difficulties and time limits. Yeah, unfortunately, we do apologize. Due to technical difficulties and time limits, we are going to have to wrap up the show for the day. We will continue this episode another time. Thank you for watching Dispatch 6. I know, or at least the attempt at it. Due to technical difficulties, we had to cancel it. Now these things happen. That's okay. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to support Jacob at jacob@aodistrict6.com. You can find those details there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time, okay?